Donovan flipped his first house at the age of 18. He's now 22 years old, doing 10 wholesale deals per month, and made as much as $150,000 on a single deal. All right, cool. Donovan, tell us about your business. What are you guys working on this year?
Yeah, hey David. So we are a residential investment company. We specialize in fixing and flipping homes. We have also started a wholesale operation in our company. We were doing about 8 to 10 fix and flips per month, last year on average. And now this year, we have pivoted. We were doing about, like I said, 8 to 10 fix and flips per month last year, and maybe 2 to 4 wholesale deals per month. We've basically flipped that now, just in the changing market. Now we have a lot more wholesale deals on the board. The goal is to do about 10 a month. Right now we're doing just under that, but we're ramping up into it, and then to do 2 to 4 fix and flips. So that's what our business looks like now.
Gotcha. So you're saying the changing market, you feel like prices and values could go up and down. So you don't want to get stuck holding too much inventory at once if that were to happen. Is that the thought process?
Yeah, because I was looking at what we were making on our wholesale deals, and I was looking at what we were making on our flips. And for the amount of risk, it made a lot more sense for us to focus a little more on wholesale. So we were, I think, at the most we had like 42 flips going at once, and
Oh,
let's say
wow.
let's say 10%, the market came down 10% on all of those, right? Say an average of like $600,000. That's a pretty big that's a pretty big amount of money we got to eat here. And really, we've never lost money on a wholesale deal. Lost money on flips though in the past.
Yeah.
Bought a condo, and in Florida, with that whole Surfside incident in Miami, people were just kind of like scared to buy condos. So we kind of just went away from that because kind of got hit pretty bad on a couple condo deals. So wasn't super fun.
What made people scared to buy condos in
So
Florida?
did you guys hear about the whole Surfside incident in
Yeah, the
Miami with the
collapse
building that collapsed? It
building
was a
that fell
condo
down.
building. It was a couple of years
Oh,
ago at this point. But between that and all the insurance issues with getting insurance on condos because of that building primarily, it's just, it scared buyers out of the market for condos.
oh, why did that building collapse?
I don't know exactly. I remember hearing about it, but it was something with, they deferred maintenance on it or something like that,
Wow.
and they like knew about it, but they didn't fix it. It was something along the lines of that.
Got it. When
Yeah.
did you start flipping homes? Because you started flipping, now you're doing wholesaling. When was that first
Yes.
deal?
So I started flipping when I was 18, and that was in October of 2021. That's when I fixed and flipped my first deal when I purchased it, and I think I sold it in March, mid March.
Well, why did you want to do that at the age of 18? Because I was working at McDonald's at that age. I didn't really, think about flipping houses or know that was possible.
Yeah. As far as flipping the houses, so basically what happened is my parents had like a family friend, who fixed and flipped houses. And I like kind of, saw that when I was growing up. And, I was little, maybe, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And, he and my dad were good friends. I would go over to the houses or whatever, see him. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You could take an ugly house, put some money into it, fix it up, and sell it for a profit. I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. I could probably do that. I could probably figure that out. And before that, I had a like little card detailing business since I was like 16 in high school. You saved up some money from that. Had a couple other things, and I was like, well, let me start looking into real estate, because I was sitting in my English class in high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do as a career. And that's when I was like, well, I could probably do this fix and flip stuff. So I started looking into deals, started making offers, basically right when I turned 18, graduated, and then over the summer was like out looking at houses, making offers. And my like first week in college, I had gotten my first offer accepted, which was on that first deal that I had.
Wow. So it is nice. You had a family friend that kind of showed you the ropes, or at least inspired you.
Yeah.
How did you end up making that purchase? I guess you can sign a contract when you're 18, right?
Hmm.
But you could borrow some
Yeah.
money, or did you use hard money?
Yeah. So I used hard money for, most of the money to buy the deal and renovate it. It wasn't that expensive of a property. I think I bought it for 200,000, put like 26 into it. And they lent, I think, 82.5% of the purchase price, 100% of the renovation. So, it wasn't an insane amount of money to come up with at the
Hmm.
time.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. So, how did you find that deal again? How did you end up?
So that deal was actually it was like a pocket listing. So I had this one guy who I still work with today. He's an agent. I met him at our local real estate investment meetup. And he was like, "Hey, I help people find investment properties." So I had met him through the group. I gave him a call the next day. He's like, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for." And he happened to be driving around the area, and he saw like a handyman fixing up, you know, it was a condo, it was like a little 4 unit building, and I bought one of the units. So a handyman like cleaning it out, fixing it up, and he's like, "Hey, these people want to sell it." And we're like, "Yeah." So he like got their information, and apparently they already had an agent at the time, but they just hadn't put it on the market. So he was like, "Hey, do you want to submit an offer?" I said yes, and we kind of just got it done before it hit the market.
Got it. So, a pocket listing is a listing that an agent knows about, but they're just not like like somebody for some reason that person doesn't want to put it on the market, right?
Right, exactly. Or they just hadn't put it on the market yet.
Got it. So, did you do any negotiating, or did they accept your offer right away?
I think I offered originally 180 or 190. And then I knew I could go up to about 200. And then they said that there was like another offer on the table. It was about like a week before, from the time we submitted the offer to the time they accepted. It was about a week. They said there was another offer on the table. Whether or not that was true, I guess, I might never know. But then I was like, okay, I'll give them my best number, 200,000. You guys, take it or leave it. They took it. And then we closed on it, I think 3 weeks later.
Got it. And then, like, how did you know that you could go up to 200?
So, I mean, I knew about what the property was worth after repairs. I knew what I was going to put into it. And I thought I was going to put 25 into it. I ended up putting 26 into it, which, on a first deal, $1,000 over budget is not terrible. Because I know some people are
No.
concerned about that. Then I had talked to some hard money lenders about it, and they're like, "Yeah, this is a good deal." So that gave me a little bit of confidence to move
Yeah.
forward with it.
That was one of the questions I was about to ask is, did you have somebody giving you say you knew what the house was worth? Like, how did you know that stuff? Like,
I
Well, I
was
guess
there
his
talked to my
agent
somebody?
agent.
probably told him,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
right? You
talked to my
just found
agent,
from your agent.
and I knew how to comp too at the time. I mean, it's not too difficult. You can look at the comparable sales, see how they stack up to the property. And I had been practicing this for probably 6 or 9 months, before I even really went out and submitted offers. Like I was watching videos on YouTube. I was practicing it at home. So I had practiced how to comp as well. But then I double confirmed it with the agent as well.
So, when you guys run estimated costs for construction, do you do a general price per square foot, or do you actually map out every single detail of what your expenses will be?
Yeah, so I've tried it both ways. I really am not a huge fan of doing price per square foot, especially like where I am in Florida. More than half the houses need roofs on them. A lot of times, half the time we need an AC. Sometimes we don't. So I kind of like just going line item by line item, and just saying, hey, the AC costs this. The roof is going to cost that, and certain things you can go per square foot, like whether it's maybe ceiling texture, popcorn removal, if it's flooring, you can go per square foot. But for the general renovation costs, I like to go line item by line item, and then you don't miss anything, or at least you
Yeah,
try
so
not to miss
you're not
anything.
getting like bids for each line item, but you have a general estimate
Your
cost
idea.
for what a new air conditioner costs, right?
Yeah, definitely, and that's how we operate now. But at the beginning, what I would do is I would, if I got a house under contract, I would get all my contractors or subcontractors into the house. During inspection period, we would put all our bids together, make sure we were good, and if we were, great, move forward by the house. If we weren't, then we would, renegotiate it at that point, if necessary. But that's how I did it at the beginning. Did a few renovations, kind of understood the cost of things, and then was able to, do it from there, like off the top of my head.
With your wholesale deals, do you put a estimated value together for another potential buyer?
So we used to, and I'll tell you why. Everyone's value is going to be slightly different, right? Because I
Yeah.
might know something about a house or a neighborhood that someone else might not know. I know that this house, the way it's positioned on the lot and on what side of the street, is going to make it worth more than something else.
Mhm.
And we'll put comps together. When we're selling a property, we have usually at least 3 comps and we'll describe how they compare to our subject property. However, I kind of stopped putting in values because someone might just want to clean it out and put it right back on the market.
Yeah.
Their value is going to be different than someone's that's going to do a full renovation,
Right.
and for the other things I described earlier as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Do you know if how that affected your buyers? Like, did it slow buyers down, or did you notice any difference from when you were giving a estimated repair cost versus not giving it?
I really haven't noticed a difference. If they ask, we'll say, hey, this is kind of what we think, but it depends.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I mean, really, I haven't noticed a difference too much. Maybe my answer might change in 6 months.
Right.
But at the moment, I haven't noticed really much of a
You
difference.
guys know, like internally, you put your own ballpark together because you have to. You have to know
Yeah,
if it's going to be a good
absolutely.
deal or not. So it's not that you don't have the data, it's just that you're not putting the data out there when you're marketing to sell a contract.
For sure, for sure. And again, like I said, if someone asks, they were like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And we say, "Well, our numbers are this, and this is what we would do. However,
Yeah.
your numbers are different." We just kind of have that disclaimer in there, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
How much did you sell that house for?
The first one,
Yeah.
I think I sold it for 295 after
Okay, great.
repairs. Yeah,
So maybe after some holding costs, you had made $50,000.
yeah. I think my actual net on it was about 27 after paying all the commissions, closing costs, holding costs, HOA fees, everything like that.
And how much do you make on a wholesale deal now?
On a wholesale, our average right now is 24. However, there was one we just signed for 150,000, which is more than we're gonna make on most flips.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, tell me about that
so
one.
what's that?
Tell me about that one.
So yeah, that one was interesting. It's kind of like an inside deal. I knew someone at the so okay, the property was like it was a home. However, it had different sections that you could rent out, right? So it has like a back guest house, the garage is an efficiency, and they actually used the house as like a home office. So you go into the house and it's got filing cabinets, it's got desks, it looks like an office, but it's a house. And the zoning was for that, which is interesting. But so I knew someone in the company. They said, hey, we are selling, this property. We just want to liquidate. We're, owners retiring, whatever it is. And I was like, well, before you guys list it, let me see if I can put it out to my investor network and, see if we can't get something. And, they wanted just over 3 million for it. We ended up settling on 3.05. And we got a buyer at 3.2. So
Wow.
that's the quick version of how that deal went down.
How do you find most of your wholesale deals?
Most of our wholesale deals we find either from referrals, someone that is in our network sees our marketing or whatever it might be, comes and says, hey, my aunt wants to sell their house, my cousin wants to sell their house. I'd say that's probably the third way we find most of our deals. I'd say second is Google pay-per-click. It's expensive, but the leads are usually pretty good. And the third way is our Meta advertisement. So Facebook, Instagram. That's how we get most of our leads, and that's our lowest cost per lead, and actually converts most of our deals that way.
Do you do anything to get those referrals going?
Yeah, so honestly, when we were fixing and flipping a lot heavier, we got I'd say probably 60 to 70% of our deals that way. Now, now it's lower. Now it's maybe 15-20%. However, yeah, when we were flipping heavy, we would sell a house, or I'm sorry, we would buy a house from a seller, and she says, okay, 6 months later, my mom needs to sell her house, and it would come back to us. Or we would go out and network with people at events, whatever it is, whether it was real estate or not, whether it was just local business event or whatever it might be. We would go out, sponsor those events, put our name out there, and really just through word of mouth, people got to know us, and know what we did.
Yeah, they saw you out there doing the actual reconstruction. Did you ever buy from wholesalers when you were just a flipper?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I bought a lot from wholesalers that way.
Interesting. What have you learned as a buyer that all wholesalers should learn and hear about?
So I think as something that I've taken from being the guy that was buying all the wholesale deals to now being the guy that's selling all the wholesale deals, um, be receptive to offers, right? So if you're a wholesaler and someone's offering 20 grand under your list price, which might be your contract price, don't get upset about that. Don't tell them to go away. Say, okay, thank you for the offer. What's the reason for that offer? Why can you not be at 350? Why do you have to be at 330? Get the feedback from them, and if you can't sell it to anyone else, you can always go try to get a reduction from the seller, and if it works, great.
Right.
Then you sold a property. Versus if you just tell them, no, go away, they're not going to want to do business with you. So I always encourage offers. And I'm always very open to feedback. And I say, hey guys, even if you're going to be lower, send in the offer. If we can't sell it and we can get a reduction, we'll let you know. That, and I think for the something I would tell to buyers is perform on your deals. I
Yeah.
can't tell you, I've never lost an earnest money deposit. I've never backed out of a deal, outside of a contingency. It's amazing to me how many people actually do that.
Oh yeah.
Because we had one deal today where we had a contract signed and the buyers just never deposited earnest money. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times that's happened recently. And it's just like, that's what's going to separate the really good buyers and who I'm going to want to sell a lot of my deals to versus the people that I don't ever want to sell them a deal again. That's, I think, a piece of advice is like, hey, if you guys are good on a number, perform on it. If you're not, just tell me. It's going to be a lot easier than going back and forth.
When you have a buyer that does not perform, what is your response to them? Do you have a conversation with them? Do you just blacklist them and never do deals with them again? Do you open the opportunity for them to do deals again in the future? What is your protocol?
So it depends. If someone is just being a total jerk and they're just clearly wasting our time, I'll probably just blacklist them and not do business with them again. However, we had a deal a few months ago where someone had gone seen the house, they put in their deposit, and then like a few days before closing, maybe a week before closing, they were like, hey, this house has termite damage we didn't know about. And I was like, okay, great. I'm not surprised, but what do you want us to do here? And they were like, well, we want out of the deal. I was like, okay, but your $10,000 is going to be gone. I mean, look at the contract you signed. Anyway, long story short, these people ended up just walking away from their 10 grand. And they were kind of upset about it. However, the guy called me, I don't know, 2 weeks later. We kind of, buried the hatchet on it and said, hey, on the next deal, we can make something work. I am going to increase your deposit to 15,000, but if you perform a third deal, I'll drop it back down to 10. So and that was like, he genuinely, he called me, he was genuinely like, hey, sorry we couldn't make it work. My partner was really, kind of over over it. So in a case like that, yeah. However, most of the time, those people that don't perform, it doesn't go that way.
So your deposit when you're contracting a house has an inspection clause where you could get out. But you're saying when you have a buyer come buy from you, you don't allow them out of the deal for any reason, even if something was like that was not discovered?
So typically, the only way a buyer, like, an assignee buyer would get out of a deal is if there's an issue with title and we can't remedy it before closing or in a reasonable amount of time. That's written into our contracts. However, our deals are always sold as is. The buyers are expected to do their due diligence before
Yeah.
signing a contract and depositing earnest money. We also say, hey, if the seller disclosed something to us, great, we'll pass it along and disclose it to you. However, if they didn't disclose it to us, yeah, I mean, we don't know about it. We can't do much there. So on our wholesale deals, yeah, we like to do offers, no inspection period. We do give them, whatever opportunity they need to go see the property. And it's first come, first serve. So, if two people are going to see the property, one person needs an extra day, the other person's ready to go. We go ahead and typically sell it to the first person that is ready to go, instead of, doing a bidding war or something like that. And sometimes we do that, but most of the time it's just first come, first serve.
Yeah.
So you mentioned two forms of advertising in addition to referrals, and I get the pay-per-click because if somebody searches "sell my house fast" and your links at the top, that's going to be really high intent. I'm curious on the meta advertising though. Do you know? Are you familiar with like what type of targeting you guys are doing, and what's the creative look like for that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So, I was always a big proponent of not doing meta advertising, because I had done it once in the past, and I hated it. I always liked PPC because someone is Googling, hey, I need to sell my house fast for cash. They're probably going to be a very qualified lead versus someone's on Facebook scrolling on their lunch break. It's like, oh yeah, like let me see what I can get for my house, right? You would think it's two different types of people. However, I changed ad agencies for both Meta and PPC, and this guy ran much better ads. We actually filmed them, so like the ads are me talking, say, hey, what if I told you you could get an extra 25,000 versus other investors, or you can get your house sold without having to pay any commissions or closing costs or anything like that. So I actually filmed those ads, or had them filmed. I was the one talking in them. So we run those. We run static pictures, and we run pictures that have like some movement in the background. I don't know, my my ad guy does it, but those are the three types of ads that we run. And I think the video ones are the ones that perform the best. So it's like a reel. That's if you're scrolling on Instagram or whatever, or TikTok, you're scrolling at on reels. You're not looking at pictures as much. So that being said, those typically seem to perform the best for us.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. Do you guys target just really broad? Because you can't really target a lot of things in Facebook natively these days.
Yeah, like you can't target a certain age demographic. And there's a few
You
other
can do
things.
age, actually, I think.
Can you do age even with
I think you can do
housing?
age. Yeah, you can do
Interesting.
age.
Interesting. I thought it was that you couldn't. Maybe that's changed. I know Facebook is always like changing their stuff. But yeah, so we target pretty broad. However, our area itself is not very broad. It's only our 5 or 6 counties that we target.
Oh, nice. That's perfect. You can cinch down on that.
Yeah.
What percentage of those 10 per month come from Meta versus referrals versus the PPC?
Right now, about 7 out of 10 are coming from Meta, which
Whoa,
honestly
that's
is
actually way more than I thought.
it's more than I thought as well. It's more than I would have expected. However, like our cost per lead on PPC is like $248. Last I looked a few days ago, it's $248 per lead. On Meta, it's like $38 per lead.
Wow.
So with the same budget on Meta and the same budget on PPC, we're making way more money on Meta. However, we do like to have the PPC still running to supplement the meta. So they might see our meta ad, and they go back and say, okay, hey, I remember Camarotti Homes. Let me go Google them, make sure they're legit. They'll see our ad there, and then they can convert that way as well. And then I'd say probably 10% of referrals, the other 20% are PPC for right now.
Gotcha.
And that's it does change, from month to month, but that's like the most recent data.
What does your business look like in terms of the people involved?
Yeah, great question. So and that's changed as well with doing a lot of flips. I had a lot of project management, and then one or two acquisition people. Now we've actually scaled back. We have just one project manager instead of 3 to 4 like I had before. Acquisition, I have one really good guy who's just total rock star that's locking up all those deals. However, I think soon here I'll probably bring on another one, especially once we increase our marketing spend. I have one disposition person. I have a disposition person for our retail stuff, so our in-house listing agent to sell all of our flips. And I have like an operations manager that kind of oversees the day-to-day on everything. And then you have like an accountants, bookkeepers, that type of stuff. So our team's actually smaller now, even though we're doing more deals, because it just doesn't take as many people to run a wholesale heavy company versus a fix and flip heavy company.
Yeah. Well, Matt, congratulations on the success. Is there any goals or things you're really looking forward to this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, by the way. I really am wanting to do about 200 wholesale and novation deals by the end of the year, at least be on track to do that. So whatever
Whoa,
that works out to
that's a
be.
huge increase.
Yeah, well, and I figured I was like, if we're doing 8 to 10 now, it's a matter of turning up some marketing spend and bringing on another guy and training him to close if he doesn't know how to close already. Like our dispo can handle it, our operations can handle it. We have all the softwares already, so like the base is there and the hard part is there. That's what we're trying to do, and we're still pretty new to the wholesale game. As far as like actually being intentional about it and really focusing on it. As far as the flips go, I mean, I'll probably still be flipping. However, it's going to be the really good deals that we're flipping, not just the little deals like we were before. Like we're doing more luxury stuff. We just bought a deal. It's like a 5,000 square foot house. Bought it for 700,000 plus closing costs and everything, and it appraised at 1.7. So those are the type of deals we're buying now. So I think that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but those are some of our goals.
Gotcha. Well, cool, man. Congratulations. And if you hit 200, I mean, that is a lot of thinking. That's a big goal, basically. It sounds like you're thinking big. And, I love that. It's very contagious. So, man, thank you so much for sharing your business, your success, and how you got started at the age of 18. So you must be 23 now, 24?
Just turned 22 3 weeks ago. So yeah.
You're showing us up, man. That's great.
Right. That's right.
Any challenges you're having now that, or any particular data that you're trying to get a hold of that you haven't been able to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, as far as challenges go, one thing for us is kind of like the not so much the sales process. Like we have that. But it's getting the deals through the whole contract process and closing, right? Because like we can get deals to close, that's not a problem. However, they're not as smooth as I would like to be. So there's that. And I mean, as far as data, we did some mailing campaigns or whatever. One thing I would really like to do is take those mailing campaigns, all the ones that got returned to us. I would like to put that data into a system and get their information somehow, and try to get them on the phone, see if we can get offers to them. That's one thing I've been trying to work on with my team.
Do you have is there a spreadsheet of that already, or is it just little like physical pieces of mail right now?
I believe we have a sheet now. Yeah, I can check on that, but I believe we do.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. If you want, I can give you a lot of info on those people, their age, their spouse, their birthday, their phone numbers, of course, emails, net income, other properties owned, et cetera. So I'd be happy to do that for you. No charge.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I think that'd be super helpful. I know sales guys would like it. More calls to make. So
Yeah, you bet, man. Well, like I said, it's basically just what DealMachine is, right? I'm just going to upload it to my account and then I'm going to export it back to you. So that'd be really simple.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I might take you up on that. That's great. Thank you.
Cool. And I hope you get the process of closing smoothed out more. Do you think it's just like documents and coordination and different things like that kind of are different, unique for each deal? So that's why it's maybe not as smooth as you'd like.
Yeah, I would say, documents not too big of an issue. It's the coordination, right? Because we're not buying the property. We have to, work with the person who actually is buying the property, and they don't work exactly like us, right? Like for us, we are very good on our timelines. We make sure we hit our due dates and everything like that. However, other people I've found are not like that. So I think, just having, someone that's just constantly checking in, making sure deadlines get met, deposits get in on time, closing happens on time. That's probably our biggest thing right now that we need to improve on. So we have all the front end stuff. That's good. We need the back end stuff now.
Ryan, do you have any experience with that? Like kind of how you guys have handled that?
Yeah. I mean, my experience is probably a little skewed because we've taken a few steps backward intentionally. But yeah, it's not as there's not an easy fix for it. And we could chat offline, but
well, do you have an internal like transaction coordinator that's like pushing all of those pieces constantly?
Yes, and we do, and she does work with the title company directly, but even that's not quite good enough if you're wanting to do volume. It's good enough for what we do, and now we're under 5 deals a month. But volume wise, you'll have to have quite a bit more in place for that. But starting with a transaction coordinator, yeah, that's an obvious. I would assume you already have that in place currently.
And what we actually had before, like we were trying to do it in house, which was okay, but honestly, I wasn't really the most thrilled with it. So we recently got onboarded with a TC company that has experience in doing all these wholesale innovation deals. So I'm hoping that I want to get through at least a good cycle with them. But yeah, I think that's going to be our next step. Just probably taking it back out of house, but just with someone a company that's more experienced.
Yeah, trying to don't train. There's my advice, David. Don't train someone to do TC. Just find someone that already knows.
For sure.
It's too much work to try to train them. Like you already know some things that are going to get held up in title, but you trying to explain that to somebody that has no clue what they're doing is just going to take a ton of time, and they're not going to be experienced. Find somebody that you can outsource it to, or somebody that's experienced and have them do it. That is the piece.
Yeah, no, that's
you're
great.
Doing. You're going down the right path.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Donovan. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to listening to it when it comes out.
We'll see you.
Should be a couple weeks.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.